Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So today we're discussing the aftermath of yesterday's reveals. We finally have the full set for Battles of Legend Terminal Revenge revealed, and it definitely looks like it's going to be a fun one. It actually brings about a lot of cool reprints, and of course, support for some fun fan favorite archetypes. Today we're going to discuss some of the biggest price fluctuations that we've seen directly as a result of these releases over the last 24 hours or so. Let's jump into it. Before we get started, I do want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Factor 75. Let's be real guys, with all of the new sets and a potential ban list coming up, as well as everyone preparing for the NAWCQ, Yu-Gi-Oh is a lot for us to keep up with, especially when you have other things happening in your life at the same time. Factor 75 is here to make that a little bit easier and take the stress out of your meal planning to help set you up for success. You skip the grocery stores, all the preparation, cooking fatigue, and instead you can have chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. There's over 35 different meals to choose from every week, including keto, calorie smart, and vegan options. What's awesome is the variety. In addition to having chef-prepared meals that are ready for you to simply heat up, they also offer a ton of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, and juices, perfect for you guys that have a ton of things going on. The other cool thing is that Factor is extremely flexible. If you're traveling to an event one week, for example, you have the ability to pause or reschedule your deliveries, and you can change it up so that you receive anywhere from 4 to 18 meals per week. Right now, you can get 50% off your first Factor box and then 20% off your next 4 boxes using my link. Either click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen with your phone and use our code MSTJUN50. Thank you once again to Factor 75 for sponsoring today's video. Kicking things off, we have the craziest price jump of them all, Nightmare Throne. So we talked about this card last week and discussed how it had started to go up from around $25 to around $35 to $40. And I think that the release of Phantom of Yubel in Terminal Revenge was relatively easy to see coming, as the product description for Terminal Revenge discussed additional support for cards from Phantom Nightmare and Legacy of Destruction, and the Yubel archetype is sort of what tied those two sets together. However, as much as people speculate, when something gets officially confirmed, that's when a ton of people are going to jump right into it, and this was no exception. Of course, Nightmare Throne is a huge consistency piece for Yubel, whether you're using it as an engine or playing the pure strategy. Either way, Nightmare Throne is going to be a 3 of, since it can either search for or destroy from your deck a fiend with 0 attack and defense, so it's getting that engine going all on its own. On top of that, Nightmare Throne is a brand new card from the most recent core set, so we should believe that this card will be safe from any reprints. All of that said, the card has spiked up to between $55 and $60 in less than a day, with a ton of players speculating that this will be the next widely abused engine alongside Fiendsmith. Of course, we will have to wait for results of competitive events with this one. If Yubel for whatever reason ends up flopping, this card will probably cool back down to around $40 to $45, but if it ends up taking over the format, I could definitely see it maintaining this $60 price tag. Up next, we're going over a couple of Ice Barrier related cards, starting with Revealer. So I'll admit I'm a bit biased because I want to play the Ice Barrier deck. I was hoping to play it without Runic and just play Pure, but I'll probably end up playing it that way because the cards work so well together. Now, a number of cards for the deck were reprinted in Terminal Revenge and given holo upgrades, but one of the key Ice Barrier cards that was excluded is Revealer of the Ice Barrier. This card is pretty amazing. You discard any card from your hand to special summon any Ice Barrier tuner from your deck, but then you are locked into water monsters for the rest of the turn. This card is key for bringing out Mirror Mage, and it results in a combo that can draw you a ton of cards. That said, once players saw that Revealer wasn't getting reprinted, a ton of players have now been trying to buy the singles. While this card was only $1 or $2 before, we've seen it shoot right up to the $6, almost $7 mark on TCG Player. Unfortunately, with the other cards not moving in price very much, it's not exactly amazing value to go out and pick up the sealed Ice Barrier structure deck just to get Revealer, but then again, that deck wasn't really all that popular, so it might be worth snagging if you can get it for the right price. The next card we have here is Ice Jade Ran Agron. So this card is a pretty cool monster that we've actually talked about several times on Market Watch before. It's a level 7 tuner where you can special summon it and a level 3 non-tuner token by discarding another water monster from your hand. So this card on its own is a free level 10 water synchro. Now over in the OCG, I believe that pure Ice Barrier decks run 3 copies of this card to make Lancia, which is the new Ice Barrier synchro monster coming in Terminal Revenge, and that card acts as sort of a protection for the deck against Nibiru, because it summons something out of the extra deck if your opponent makes it leave the field. Now that said, I think players might have actually overlooked the fact that Gran is getting an early reprint here. This card came out in Cyberstorm Access, and I believe a lot of players assumed that we'd have to wait until the 2024 tins to get access to cheap copies of Gran, so it was seen as something of a safe investment for right when Terminal Revenge dropped, if you could capitalize on all of the early hype. However, this early reprint certainly throws things off a bit, though early on here we haven't seen too much crazy price movement. This card was at a peak of $15, recently they've been around $6 to $8, and the card is still currently sitting at $6. I don't know if the market is just slow to react or what, but if you can, I'd definitely consider offloading these since the reprint makes this card so much more accessible and realistically brings it back down to being $1 or so. Another card that we talked about fairly recently is Ritual Beast Tamer Elder. Now, Ritual Beasts were one of the main archetypes getting support in Terminal Revenge, as they get a few new monsters and a spell as well. Fortunately, Konami did decide to give us reprints of a few key cards, such as Ulti Gaia Paleo, Rampengu, Ulti Kanahawk, and Ambush. However, one key card that is missing is Tamer Elder. This is a pretty simple monster that, after being normal summoned, gives you an additional normal summon of a Ritual Beast monster. Ritual Beasts are a deck that need to get multiple monsters onto the field in order to get their combos going, so having access to Elder is one of the easiest ways to do so. Now, players, I think, were actually afraid of something exactly like this happening. It was never guaranteed which Ritual Beast cards were going to be reprinted in Terminal Revenge versus what would be excluded, so we did see this card go from being like $2 or $3 to then hitting $5 or $6. However, now that we have confirmation that it is not in Terminal Revenge, we see that the card has shot way up past that and is now between $15 and $20 for a single copy. Of course, the card could be slotted into something else. I could see it being like an OTS common in OTS Tournament Pack 26, but even then the next one isn't coming until like October, right? For now, this is just going to be an annoyingly expensive card for Ritual Beast players to have to try to get their hands on, so if you do happen to have this card lying around in your bulk, definitely dig it up and offload it while it's so hyped up. Alright, so technically this one hasn't spiked yet, but I think it's only a matter of time, and I'm calling it right now, Infernoid Antra. So for the most part, all of the Infernoid monsters were reprinted in Terminal Revenge, even Piatti and Sujeti, and to be fair, I think that the Infernoid support is really cool. If a card like Infernoid Evil, which is the new level 1 fusion, were released for any other archetype, I think it could instantly push a deck to tier 1 status, and Infernoid could actually be pretty meta relevant since they are all fire monsters and you can use the original Sinful Spoils to special summon Decatron from the deck. Anyways, I don't know why, but there's one card that wasn't reprinted from the main deck for the archetype, and that is Infernoid Antra. This card is the level 2, and its utility is that it targets and bounces a face-up card your opponent controls. Maybe not the best card from the deck, but definitely a useful one. I'd assume you just want to play one so that you could situationally dump it and copy its effect with Decatron. However, for whatever reason, this card wasn't reprinted, and so it only has its original printings from Secrets of Eternity, and then its reprint in the tins from that year. Now, at the time I'm making this, the card is still only $1, but I know the Yu-Gi-Oh community. I fully expect this card to be anywhere from $5 to $10 by the time that this video goes up. I don't think that this card is exactly necessary, and you can probably get away with running something else in its place, but it's a one-of that you should grab a single copy of if it's still at $1 and you are planning to play Infernoids. Okay, so this one is a bit more speculative, but it's a card I'm more interested in. It's Coral Dragon. Specifically, I'm looking at the quarter century printing, which just feels pretty undervalued. This card is a level 6 Dragon Synchro Tuner, where if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to draw a card. So in the Ice Barrier deck, this is a card that you can pretty easily summon out. The idea is that you can use this card with the 3 tokens summoned off of Mirror Mage to make Ravenous Croco Dragon Arcthis, and Coral Dragon is used to chain block the Arcthis, which lets you draw 3 cards, while this card gives you a draw as well, which is pretty cool. Now, of course, I found this because I want to play Ice Barriers, but that seems like a really strong combo to me, especially when you combine them with the Runic cards. I know that Coral Dragon just got that reprint in Rarity Collection too, so the card is actually really easy to find. Any of those lower rarity printings aren't going to be all that expensive. However, even with the recentness and the fatigue of opening a new set, I still find it surprising that the quarter century printing of Coral Dragon, which will always be the highest rarity, is coming in at only $4 per copy. Even though it is just a bridge piece, right? The card I'm comparing it to in my mind is Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians, which was a bridge piece to get from like the Charmer Link 2s up to an Appaloosa, but we still saw the quarter century versions of that card hit almost $30. I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think that at only $4 a piece, quarter century Coral Dragon is a pretty safe pickup. And finally, the last card we're looking at here is Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer. This card is a pretty interesting Xyz monster. The reason that I put it at the end here is that there's a few different things that I could see using this. I actually played against someone who I think ended their board with this card in Goblin Bikers. This card has a really unique effect. If this card is equipped with something, you can attach a monster your opponent controls to this card as an Xyz material. So there are a couple of different themes that I could see being responsible for this card trending. Goblin Bikers are the one that jumped to mind for me since I had to play against them. Another one is all of the different shark cards with the new support that they're receiving in the upcoming core set Rage of the Abyss, especially because this card happens to be a water as well. The final thing is that there is a new full armored Xyz monster confirmed to be coming out in Terminal Revenge. It's called Full Armored Utopic Ray Lancer. Now, I personally am not too familiar with the whole full armored package, so I can't really speak to it all that much, but if you do know, let us know down in the comment section. For our purposes, however, we should know that this card used to only be $1 or so, but the Ultras are now up to $6 each, though I think they did hit almost $10 at one point, and then the quarter century printing was as low as about $39 to $40. They're now up to around $55 each. Either way, this is probably a pull that you weren't too thrilled about from back in Age of Overlord, so double check your bulk and make sure that you move your copies of this card while it's hyped up. Alright guys, that is all I have for today. Battles of Legend Terminal Revenge, in my opinion, is definitely a pretty cool set. I don't know, like, I've seen a lot of stuff online where people are not too big on it, they think the set's kind of bad. But personally, I think it's really, really cool. I'm really happy about the ice barrier support because I love the art for the ice barriers, and Lancia just looks so awesome to me. And I'm also really excited for the Infernoid stuff. So there's two really big archetypes in here for me, and I also get to rarity bump a lot of like the different playsets of random cards that I have at home. So lots of cool stuff. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure you let me know. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.